Hello and welcome to Plug In with the Unchargeables, our weekly YouTube show that we have here in our community, the Unchargeables. We're a community of chronically ill people that support each other and talk about different topics. This week, our topic is when do you know it's time to let your doctor go? The goal of this is not to bash all doctors because there's certainly good doctors out there, but when the doctor is not a good fit for you, you need to know as a patient that it's your right to let your doctor go and look for a new one. Well, we're online with our panel of chronic illness warriors, and we're all gonna take turns introducing ourselves. I'm gonna start with myself. My name is Natalie. I'm a 33-year-old single mother. I suffer from Hashimoto's and fibromyalgia, and I'm currently infected with the H. pylori bacteria, and I'm trying to fight that off. I live on the island of Lanzarote. I've moved here 2 years ago from Amsterdam, where I was born and raised, to live in a healthier and better environment for myself. And the next person to introduce themselves is Debbie. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Debbie. I live in Virginia in the USA. I used to work in human resources for about 30 years, and now I am a stay-home mom to my pups, and I am trying to get disability. I am sick with lupus, fibromyalgia, arthritis, and a host of other things, but I'm trying to deal with them all as I can. Kate?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Debbie. As Debbie said, I am Kate. I am 27 years old. I live in the cold state of Michigan. Yes, winter is almost here. Yay and boo. I was born with hydrocephalus and Dandy Walker syndrome. I also have PCOS and a bunch of other things in the mix. Over to you.
Hi, my name's Justin. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. Go Buckeyes. Kate. I am diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic pain syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, somatic dysfunction of the entire body, basically, and a plethora of other things I can't even remember right now. See, I should have been on the Fibro Fog show. And there it goes. I'm going to send it back to you, Kate, since my brain's not functioning properly right now. I'm
Natalie,
sorry. Natalie.
Thank you. Well, thanks for introducing yourself. Yeah, we all suffer from brain fog. So this happens all the time where you're in the middle of a sentence and you just completely blank. So watch our brain fog episode. I'll link it down below in the description and you'll see all about that. But today we're talking about when's it time to let your doctor go? So we all have our different stories. I've also posted on our Facebook pages the question, when is it time to let your doctor go? I will read those comments later. But first, we are going to tell a version of our story. My personal one is I started getting a lot of pain when I was 14. And they tested a lot of things and they couldn't find anything. Then when I turned 16, I had so many symptoms. And one of them was that I couldn't take a deep breath in. Well, I was 16 years old and they couldn't find anything in my blood, so I must be hyperventilating because that's what teenagers do, right? So they sent me to breathing therapy and I've been there for 2 years every week. Well, I was a minor, so I just had to do as they told me. But as soon as I turned 18, I stopped going, and I told them, listen, I've been doing this therapy for 2 years. Don't you think it would have helped if I was really hyperventilating? So I went to another doctor, and they did an extensive blood test, and they found out, no, they referred me to a specialist, and they found out that I had autoimmune Graves' disease. So everything in my body, my thyroid was going 3 times as fast as normal, and everything in my body was going 3 times as fast as well, as did my heart. And that was the reason that I couldn't really breathe. I didn't really know that I could fire my doctor. So without really actively knowing that, I did do that. Later in life, I got some treatments and some medication that I didn't agree with. And I've had instances where I was in a hospital, and they wanted to give me like all sorts of shots. And I was like, well, but I don't want them. And they literally laughed in my face. I think I was 22 by that time. And they're like, haha, you just don't want the shot, but you're going to get it anyway. And I got it, and I got really sick. So now I know that I can refuse them, even if they laugh in my face and tell me that they think that's the way to treat me. I can. So when I was in the emergency room recently, as recent as I think it was about 2 months ago, they wanted to give me a shot for something again, and I told them no, and I walked away. I'm very happy that I did that, because they wanted to give me a shot to relax my bowels, because it was hurting so much. And later it turned out that I had H. pylori, and that would have just fed the bacteria and made me more sick. So, you know, you live and learn, and hopefully take better decisions when you're older. So that's in a nutshell my story about doctors and what you can do for yourself. I would really like to hear Debbie's story.
Hi, I hope to keep this as short as possible. Quickly to put it, I found out I was getting really sick about 2 years ago, but I didn't know why. I just was really, really tired all the time, and I hurt. And I've hurt for years, and I didn't know why. And so the first thing I did was go to my primary doctor, who rocks. She's still in my life. And she suggested that I have some of these things going on, and I needed to see a specialist to confirm them. So, and then she could treat me. And so the first thing I did was go down the street and go see a neurologist, because something was going on in my brain, and I found that out by going to the ED, and they did a CAT scan on me. I have white things all over my brain, and nobody knows why. And so the neurologist I went to put me through 6 months of excruciating tests, claiming that I 99.9% had MS. And the last visit I had with him, he said I did not have it. And my husband and I were so distraught that we didn't know what to do. I mean, I was just shocked. So he was fired, gone. Never went back to him again. Went to a rheumatologist this time because my primary doctor suggested that, and hated her. As soon as I walked through the door, looked at her, she looked at me. I was like, nope, this ain't going to work. She actually said I did not have fibromyalgia. I did not have lupus, that she didn't understand what was wrong with me. And keep in mind, I had had two TIA strokes 6 months before all this, and I could barely walk. I was dragging my whole right side of my body. And so I finally found, after 2 years of this, went to a doctor that my primary care doctor recommended. And as soon as I walked in, it was love at first sight. And he confirmed that I did have fibromyalgia. He did the test, blood test, confirmed my lupus. And my primary care doctor confirmed with him that I had 2 TIA strokes. And one of them was while I was driving, which is why I don't drive anymore. So I had, between those 2 that I have now, my primary and my neurologist, I have fired 10 doctors, and one of them was actually a university. They said I had migraines. I went, and that is because I can't walk right or I'm exhausted. I know what a migraine is. And so that didn't help me at all, and was just a wasted trip. So my advice to everybody, if you do not feel comfortable with them, pretty much as soon as you walk through the door in the first 5 minutes, it usually is not going to change. And please don't stop looking. Thank you. Next, I want to Kate.
Wow, Debbie, that's one heck of a story. My story of saying goodbye, doctor. First doctor I ever fired was my first neurosurgeon. I had been seeing him since I was an infant, so 25 years about. The amount of time he's been in practice. When I was in high school, I was having headaches, and he tried tons of different migraine medications. I went through a lot of different surgeries with him for repair of my shunt, getting an LP shunt, all of that fun stuff. When I was 18, I started having symptoms of a shunt malfunction. I went to him. I woke up, couldn't move at all. Took a few months to work back. Because, you know, there was a connection there. I was the same age as his kid. I was between his two daughters. So it was kind of hard to a new neurologist, having fired the last 5 because they all put me on migraine meds, which I didn't have migraine. They never worked, or the meds never worked. I fired him and went back to the first hospital that ever treated my hydrocephalus, the first practice of neurosurgeons who ever treated my hydrocephalus, and best decision of my life. All I can say is, people, go with your gut. If your family tells you it's time to cut somebody loose, it's more than likely time to cut somebody loose. I mean, your gut and your family definitely help you get through. Justin, and I'm sorry for calling you Jason earlier. Over to you.
There we go. Sorry about the delay. I've shared my story's pretty similar to Kate and Debbie's. Mine started in October of 2014. I thought I had the flu. And that was on a Friday, so I was thinking, okay, woohoo, I've got all weekend to recoup from this flu, and I'll be able to go back to work on Monday. Long story short, the flu lasted for 2 months. At the 2-week mark, I went to the doctor. They drew blood, did the normal things. Everything kept coming back negative. So they sent me to the Cleveland Clinic's infectious disease department, which they tested me for everything from A to Z, and they came back with nothing. So she sent me to the dentist, which I thought was kind of odd, and so did the dentist. I had questioned him. I said, if it was from my teeth, if it were bacterial or viral, it would have showed up in my blood work. And he said he agreed. And he says, I won't pull your wisdom teeth if you don't want me to. I says, no, I'm going to follow the doctor's orders. That was my first mistake. Then I just got passed to every specialist that you can think of: rheumatology, endocrinology, pulmonology, and no answers from any of them. Then finally, after, let's see, the third neurologist is when I realized that I can say, hey, you know what? You're fired. I'm not putting up with you, your derogatory statements, your mistreatment of me as a person and a patient. And that was when he decided to call me a drug addict. I told him to take a hair sample, a urine sample, and a blood sample to prove that I wasn't. He refused, and that's when I fired the Cleveland Clinic as a whole and switched over to university hospitals. And that's when things started to get a little better for me. I actually found a doctor who truly cared. I could see it in her eyes. I could hear it in her voice. She's the first doctor to make me cry, just because of how much she actually truly cared. And that's when I realized that once you do find that good doctor, it's a lot easier when you do have to see a new doctor and you don't like them, that you can just get right up and walk out the door. And that's very important to people like us. And I forgot to mention the list of things I do have. Fibromyalgia, chronic pain syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, retroflexion of the odontoid, hypertrophy of the transverse ligament, tonsillar ectasia, C1, C2 instability, multiple herniated discs, and spondylosis throughout the entire spine, with somatic dysfunction of basically the entire body, which that is basically where your body's not functioning or moving the way it should physically and causes pain. And all of these doctors just were looking at me like, oh, this guy wants drugs, he wants drugs. I didn't pick that up till it was too late. And they had traumatic stress disorder also. And you don't have to take the drugs that they tell you that they want you to take. I mean, you could try it. If you're uncomfortable with it, stop. Tell the doctor. If they disagree, get a new doctor. I'm going to pass this back to Natalie because I will ramble for the whole show if I do not pass this off.
Thank you, Justin. I see that Kathy has joined us too. I love your t-shirt. If you want that t-shirt, check the link in the description. Kathy, please introduce yourself and tell us your story of when you know it's time to let your doctor go.
Sorry about that. Okay, I'm here. Just wanted to let you know I'm 54, empty nester, taking care of my mom right now. I have fibromyalgia, Hashimoto's, and a whole alphabet soup of other symptoms and problems. My biggest struggle was getting my first diagnosis. It took me over 15 years. I went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and the first 12 years they kept telling me it's all in my head. You need to go see a psychiatrist. You're showing no symptoms, and it was a real struggle. And I was a single parent at the time, and it was hard. Finally, when I met my husband, he could see that I was really in pain and that I really needed something. So he started going with me to my doctor's appointments. And the second to the last doctor I went to, he basically told me it's all in your head. And my husband said he could see it in my eyes that I was ready to jump off the exam table and strangle this guy. And when the doctor left for me to get dressed back into my clothes, my husband said, this guy's a jerk. We're leaving. We're not going to do anything with him further. We'll find someone else. So I finally went back to my orthopedic surgeon because it was mostly joint pain and muscle pain that I was experiencing. And so I told him, I said, all of my tests are coming back normal. What's going on? And so he did all kinds of tests. He actually went in and did an orthoscopic scope on my knees and ankles And he came back and he said, the only conclusion I can come up with is that you have fibromyalgia. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time to look at everything. And he's been treating me since, and that was 2001. So I've been with him over 20 years. But it's nice to have a doctor that will actually sit down and listen to you. If I have issues with prescriptions, all I have to do is email this poor guy, and he will get right on it for me. I live in Pennsylvania. He's in Alexandria, Virginia. I still see him. I still go and take the 2-hour drive and see him because he's compassionate. He understands me. He's known me a long time. The Hashimoto's, I got diagnosed a couple years ago with that, and it just adds to the fatigue. But I take it day by day, hour by hour, tell my mom the same thing. And it's been a real struggle this past year and a half since my father died, but like I said, we take it day by day. My husband's got a bunch of really nice trips waiting for me in the next 6 months. My mother's taken me to Amsterdam for 2 weeks, so I'm excited. And I just take it day by day, make sure I take my meds, and I'll pass this back to Natalie. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. That made me think of what I'm doing right now, and I want to put that out there for whoever doesn't follow all of my videos and my Facebook lives. I have found a nurse practitioner in the United States that helps me, because here on the island, you know, there's one doctor. You don't like that doctor? Well, that's your loss, because there's only one. So I have to work with what's available here, and it's not really a lot. So what I have is, I have this nurse practitioner who has asked me literally over 500 questions about my history, about my symptoms, and trying to put them all together. All the tests that I can have done here, I will send to her. And there are private laboratories where I can order tests. So whenever I can afford it, I will have a test done and send her the results. And she will guide me in my diet. She will guide me in which medications to take and which not to take, which oils to use, which supplements to take, you know, all of those things. So she helps me, even though she can't physically be my doctor, she can guide me in working with the doctors that I have here. So that's another possibility that you can try out. What I found works for me right now. I also put on the Facebook page a post saying many chronic illness warriors face the same problem. They are not treated the way they should. They are not believed, and the doctor does not want to cooperate. How do you know it's time to let go of your doctor? I just want to read a couple of the comments. Haylin says, when their only answer to all of your symptoms is, if you would just get insert problem here under control, then all of the others will get better. But you can't get it under control because of all the other problems. Jessica says, it's time to let your doctor go when every question I ask is answered with, well, that's part of the lupus. That's fine, but what can I do about it? And also they will get agitated with her because she's not seeing one of the many specialists they insist she sees. And she says, well, you don't pay my medical bills, and until you do, you have no right to get irritated with me with which specialists I go and see and which one I don't. Stacy says, I guess I'm lucky to have a team that knows, understands, and supports and cares for me doctor-wise. Well, that's very good. And I hope that everybody reaches that, but usually that's not the first doctor you encounter. A team of doctors is something you build, and before you reach that team, you probably have to let a lot of doctors go. Sarah says, when they start saying things like, well, what are you doing to get better, in an accusatory tone, disregarding my own efforts to get healthier, assuming that weight loss and counseling will fix everything. I think we've all experienced it before. They all think it's in your head, me with my breathing therapies and Justin with saying that he's depressed. You know, all of us have had our different versions of them saying it's all in our heads, and we know it's not. So if you are not diagnosed yet, and doctors and even family members and friends will tell you it's all in your head, you know your body best. Don't let anybody convince you that maybe you're crazy. Please remember, you are not crazy. You are living in your body, and nobody can feel what you are feeling. You're the only one that can fight for yourself, even if nobody believes you. So, you know, just keep believing in yourself. We have already been online for almost half an hour. This topic is not nearly done yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this episode, but then I will record the second part and we will put the second part online. So for today, I want to say bye. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more of our episodes, please hit subscribe on our YouTube channel and you'll get a notification every time we upload a new video and every time we go live. We have chronic illness apparel like this shirt and the one that Catherine is wearing. So if you want to look at our apparel, go in the description below and visit our shop. And we will see you tomorrow with the second part of this show. Bye.